তৈরি করছি and I'm telling them about Lovedesh কারণ আমার স্বপ্ন এই কোম্পানি আপনাদের বাংলাদেশ মানুষকে খুব সাহায্য করবার জন্য। পিছনে পিছনে দেখতেছেন আপনি একটু এটা ধরে আমাকে এই 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 রকম এটা রাখেন and at the back এই যে ব্যাগ দেখতেছেন এটা হ্যাঁ see at the back Lovedesh. These three gentlemen are the ones who actually were impacted by Rana Plaza factory collapse. And I'm so pleased that they've actually agreed and said, we love your idea, we'd love to get some help. কারণ এইটা বিক্রি করলে আমার খুব ইচ্ছা আপনাদেরকে আমি জানি না কেমন ভাবে একটু সাহায্য করব আপনারা কি মনে করেন এটা ভালো?
হ্যাঁ খুব ভালো।
You like the idea?
বাইরে থেকে যদি আমার বাংলাদেশে আসে আমি গর্ববোধও আমি বেঁচে আমি আমার বউ বাচ্চা আরো ভাই বোনদেরকে আমি নিয়ে চলতে পারবো আরো দেশে আরো বাচ্চারা আছে তারাও ব্যবসা বাণিজ্য করে খাইতে পারবে আমাদের কাছ থেকে কিনবে তারা বা তারা প্রোডাক্ট নিবে ঠিক আছে নিয়ে আমরা যেহেতু জিনিসটা অনেক জায়গায় ছড়াই যাবে অনেক বিভিন্ন দেশে চলে যাবে তারা বলতে পারবে যে এটা রানা প্লাজার একটা ভিক্টিমের একটা গেঞ্জি এটা বুঝতে পারবে যেহেতু লেখা আছে লেখা আছে
আমাদের ইয়াদ আছে যেন 1000 মানে 1136 মানুষ মারা গেছে এইটা ইয়াদ করা খুব উচিত দেখছেন। Okay, we're just letting people join slowly and we're just kicking off. It is 11:30 a.m. Thank you so much for those of you who have just joined us. We're streaming live. My name is Yasmin Choudhury and we're just waiting for our Bangladesh panel. I know that it's raining very, very hard out there at the moment, and sometimes in those kind of situations, the electricity goes. So please bear with us, but thank you. My name is Yasmin Choudhury. I'm very pleased to be joined by some of the most foremost experts from the business world, as well as campaigners, to discuss what happened 7 years ago and going forward. So I'm just letting in now, very kindly, just waiting for our Bangladesh panel to join. So once Masood has joined at 11:36 a.m. promptly, we will be holding a 1-minute silence to remember the 1136 who actually lost their lives in Rana Plaza. So I'll just give a quick introduction. So I'm Yasmin, founder of Lovedesh. This is me and my daughter, and we race to actually do this live webinar. So there'll be a lot of mistakes, and we only have the one laptop between us. It is what it is. But firstly, just wanted to share with you that on our panel, we have with us Masood Rami, one of the first in our Bangladesh panel, and he is the business editor of Kalor Kantor, which is the biggest national daily with 10 million online and up to 3 million readership. He's been by my side for the past 5 years as I've been developing the solutions to solve some of the biggest problems facing our society. So thanks to him. We also have joining us today, while she's joining, and I'm going to allow actually the the British business panel. So sorry, I'm really nervous. I'm really sorry to actually introduce themselves because I'm actually letting people in as they're joining. So we also have Nazma Akhtar, who is the founder of Awaj Foundation. It's a trade union led by garment workers for garment workers, and Nazma is a former factory worker herself from the age of 11. We also have Salah Uddin Ahmed, who is featured in New York Times. He was there on the day Rana Plaza collapsed and will be sharing his photographs from that day. And also Monir Ahmed, who's a factory owner of an apparel company in Chittagong. So that's me, and let me just allow Andrew, who will be chairing the business panel, to introduce the business panel. Thank you. Over to you, Andrew. Oh, have I unmuted? Hang on, how do I unmute?
There you go. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending where you are in the world. It's great to be here. And yes, we may have sort of thrown this together in the last minute, but I think it's a really valuable and important exercise to take place. So I'm Andrew Wallis. I'm the CEO of Unseen. I'll talk a little bit later about the work that Unseen does, but it's an anti-trafficking slavery charity. Also on the panel is Jay Chakrabarti, my good friend, data goddess, and co-laborer in terms of how we use data and tech to tackle modern slavery. And then Dominic McVeigh, we've never met Dom, but it's fabulous to meet you. Owner of Dom, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hella.
Hella.
Yeah.
That's
so
it.
yeah, let's unmute actually Dom,
Yeah.
because Dom is, I want to say thank you, because I chose all of you because of the work you've been doing, and we work very quickly. So Dom, could you just give an introduction very quickly?
Hi, yeah, Dominic McVeigh here. I've been building garment factories in Southeast Asia and East Africa over the last 7 years, and employing about 15,000 people across Kenya, Ethiopia, Sri Lanka, for some period of time in Mexico as well, generating about $200 million in revenue. But it's an award-winning garment manufacturer. We provide childcare facilities, sexual health services, financial literacy training, English lessons, you name it. We've won a number of awards for our policies towards human rights and enabling and supporting prosperity, and also very much known for taking brands to task over their behaviour and attitudes. I have actually recently just stepped down from Hella as chairman, but I am actively involved in the garment sector, and I'm on the board of Ethical Apparel Africa, actually, which is a Ghana-based garment manufacturer working with DFID and USAID for job creation and technical capacity building in some of the poorest parts of Ghana and Benin.
Thanks, Dom. Thanks. And I was just conscious of the time because it's approaching 11:35, and I'm also letting people join in. So please get ready to hold a 1 minute silence. And we are very secular, so we just do whatever we want in terms of respecting, obviously, the people. I'm so sorry I've slept. I only had 2 hours sleep last night. But any minute, here's the 1 minute silence. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And just so you know, it's the month of Ramadan kicking off, and those who would have lived today, many of them, their religion was very important. And that's why, out of mark of respect, we wanted to actually say a prayer for them on their behalf. And obviously we're connected with the survivors out in the grassroots. So anyway, with no further ado, let's kick off. So far, I've got I'm just going to unmute Masood Rumi and also Nazma Akhtar, who join us live from Bangladesh. Masood Rumi, hello, welcome from the biggest daily, Color Conto, in Bangladesh, business editor. How are you?
Hi, good evening. I'm working already. Yasmin told that I'm working as a business editor of Daily Color Control, largest media group in our country. So basically, from my working perspective, I am working with RMG sector because I am a business editor, RMG and financial sector and private sector. We are working a lot of stories and dealing with RMG worker. You know that in our country already affected by COVID-19 and our government already declared a big fund and for RMG sector also. So RMG worker can get their salary from this fund. But as you know that some subcontract garments already their factory is shut down, and some RMG worker is jobless already. So this is very alarming situation. Another problem is the garments worker and the garments location in the area that is very much affected area from COVID-19. That is mostly Gazipur area. So this is the problem. Currently, government decide that some garments will be open up phase by phase by ensuring protective measure. So this is on the way. Some garments will be open because you know already in our country there is more than 15 garments that are producing PPE and other protective equipment that is supplying Bangladesh and also all over the country. So this is they are contributing a lot for PPE and other produce, but that is the main crisis that our RMG sector is main uh, main export revenue sector that is contribute more than 85% of our economy. So that is the problem because if RMG sector affected, our economy will be very much affected from this. And other issue is that is very much important. You know, more than 15 RMG worker that is.
Hello, Baba. It's okay. It's okay. You're going to become maybe the Bangladesh dad.
So after Corona, so it main challenge is how our RMG sector will face the challenge because you know that post RMG post Corona situation will more challenging. So I want to explain our panelist how Bangladesh can survive this situation. Please.
Yeah, we will do. Thank you so much, Masood. And I want to now just quickly introduce you because one of the things we're going to do is before we hand over to the business panel later on, we're just waiting for Salahuddin, the photojournalist, to join, as well as Munir Ahmad, who's a factory owner out in Chittagong. And I have to put hands up, we got the time wrong. We've been so stressed, and actually they thought it was 5:30. It's also the night before Ramadan, so we're waiting for both of them. But while you're here, Masood and Nazma, okay, I wanted to kick off because the first question is just quickly, while we look to the future, we just wanted to pay homage to the past and ask you, Masood, really quickly. No, let's go to Nazma. Nazma, are you there? She switched off her video. She might be having connection problems. Thank you, Nazma. So we're going to ask our Bangladesh panels, where were you that day? And just to describe for a few minutes. And by the way, we'll be to our audience, if you've got any questions, there's a chat window. There she is. Sorry, bear with us, because obviously it's raining, I believe, in Bangladesh. For those of you who are joining, it often interferes with the connection. Nazma, are you okay? Are you here?
Yeah, sorry.
Right, great, thank you. Nazma, without further introduction to our audience, former garment worker, now a formidable, amazing, incredible, inspirational figure leading the fight to actually fairer fashion. Nazma, on the day, Rana Plaza, 24th April 2013, tell us a little about where you were and how you heard the news.
Thank you, Yasmin, giving me the opportunity and talk about the Bangladesh garments workers and the fashion industry all over the world. On that day, I was in Dhaka and I'm going to office to work at my daily things. But in the meantime, I got a phone call from some of my colleague and some of other people also there in Ashulia sorry, in Sabar, there is a building collapse, Rana Plaza, and where over 3,000 workers under the collapse. So immediately, Dhaka is huge traffic and a lot of difficult moment. So I went there and I see our all brother and sister under the collapse. What I will do, I don't know, because I was really going to depression and disappointing. And then I'm trying to what to do, not to do. Then I'm trying to talk with the government, manufacturer. I'm trying to talk with the workers, different media, different stakeholder, what's happened, how we have to work on, and also I try to talk with the international community, how we have to accountable the fashion brand, because we had severe fire incident also in our country. Also with 2006, we had another building collapse. So this was the second time and we couldn't accept that thing. So that was the day I was passing.
So thanks so much, Nazma, for sharing. And Masood, while I unmute you now, Masood, tell us, where were you on the day when you heard news of Rana Plaza, and how was it for you as a business editor and the journalistic people, obviously the teams out there, please?
So in every year, that our RMG sector is remembered this day. Because this is a very eye-opener for our fashion industry. That after Rana Plaza collapse, government and private sector made a lot of reform in our RMG sector. And for this initiative, more than 10 platinum and world best Karkhana, best factories in our country, that is elite platinum level factory by USA.
Okay. Thank you, Masood. Thank you. And I just wanted to check, in Bangladesh on the 24th of April, যখন এই যে রানা প্লাজা ঘটনা হয়ে যায়, আপনি কই ছিলেন? আপনি কেন ছিলেন? How did you hear the news? Where were you when you heard the news?
In that time, I am going to cover the Rana Plaza victim incident because that is from Savar. So we are going a team from our office. In that time, I was working another daily Jaijaidin. So in that time, I was going to the Savar area for covering the incident.
Okay. And so we're just waiting still for Salahuddin, photographer, and obviously Munir Ahmed to join. Just checking, if you have any questions, by the way, for the panel, both the Bangladesh panel and the business panel, please feel free to write in the chat and we'll be happy to share your questions with the panel. So while we're waiting, I'm actually going to explain that I myself was at home, and maybe while waiting, we can ask some of our other panelists, like for example, Jaya. I'm just going to mute you, Jaya. Do you remember the day, and where were you when you heard?
I was with family, and when I heard, obviously the first thing you do is you check with family, because my family come from the border and around, and it's and we weren't affected in terms of directly, but I think shockwaves were felt throughout the family in terms of what had happened, just because of our connectedness.
Okay, thank you. So I'm now going to gosh, sorry, because I'm thinking on my feet here. I'm going to share Salahuddin's website, because one of the things we wanted to do is actually go through and show you some of the things. Let's have a look. So bear with us. Thank you for your patience, because we did organize this in just the last couple of days. So Salahuddin, while I figure this out, while I share my screen. Okay. Has he joined yet? Okay, he's coming. So yeah, we're just going to let Amelia in. So thank you to everyone who's joined. We've got Afsana, we've got Devesh, we've got Harriet, we've got Joe, Keith, few others, Suhail, sorry, we can't keep up with the names, but thank you for joining. So while I share my screen, let me see, how do I do this? Here we are, share. Okay, so Salahuddin will be joining us shortly, but he's an incredible photographer. He's been featured in the New York Times, and he actually is a photographer for the Business Standard, a title in Bangladesh. And he's a documentary journalist. And as you can see, the quality of his work is incredible. And I would all urge you, because under the stories section, and I hope you can all see this. Can someone give me a thumbs up if you can see Salahuddin's website? Great. Under stories, you'll see here, he's got, for example, the Rohingya crisis, toxic tanning, bloodstained clothes, Nepal tragedy, and Lost River. But the bloodstained clothes, he very kindly, and we want to say thank you to Salahuddin, because we are a very small, tiny outfit. We don't have the money to pay often for photography licenses, and we respect the creative process and respect creative copyright. But we thought we'd just take a moment to look at this picture before we promise move on to solutions. And that was obviously, we're waiting for Salahuddin because he made a point to say that was obviously not on the day. That was all the people pictured who are still in the midst of recovery and obviously saving lives. So Nazma and Masood, if we can slowly, while we're looking at this picture, just waiting for Salahuddin to join. Yeah, okay, so apparently I have to stop the sharing to let him in. So here we are. Is he there? I can't see him, he still hasn't arrived. So can you just, and where's Monir? Is Monir okay? Okay, so sorry, our Bangladesh panel is a bit delayed. So look, let's just start talking while we wait for Monir and for Salahuddin to join. I'm going to unmute you, Nazma. Okay. And perhaps one of the things you can talk about is the crisis facing the garment workers under COVID-19. So over to you, Nazma. While we wait for the Salahuddin, the documentary journalist, to join, Nazma, could you explain to us the 4.1 million workers right now? There was a recent Forbes report that estimates $2.8 billion of orders have been cancelled. And another report says that Corona could impact up to, or at least over 2 million people in Bangladesh. So Nazma, share with us how this is affecting your community.
Thank you, Yasmin. Actually, you know, in Bangladesh, the ready-made garment sector, we have 4.1 million workers, where the 60% are female young girls are working in this sector. And mostly they are coming from the countryside, and they are rural migrant from to the urban city. And these girls are working, and this is big contribution for our country and also the people's livelihood. So we have, we are facing that, you know, the Bangladesh government lockdown from the 26th of March. So in the meantime, most of the company, like a fashion brand, like Euro, Primark, H&M, Tesco, all of them are decided to cancel the order, cancel their suspension and pending these things. And immediately, you know, it's affect to our industry, and the company, like our Bangladeshi suppliers, they immediately laid off. They are retrenched our workers, sacked their, and still the March salary worker didn't get many factories. So it's so much badly affected our poor working people, and who are treated in globally corporates, the multinational and fashion brand who is working in Bangladesh, and they are treated like a cheap labor, and people are coming to our country, and it's affected very badly to our industry, because our women has no job, a lot of maternity women, a lot of people, and we don't have any social distance. People are protesting for their right, the wages and job. So, you know, it's a mass situation, and it's very hard the people are talking about who are taking the most of the profit, most of the benefit, and they are ignore their responsibility. Now nobody is doing proper duties and responsibility for the workers, protection, workers livelihood. Nobody is doing this kind of issue, and it's really hard because the multinational, the fashion retailer brand, when they cancel this, take this decision, and in the meantime, our workers are getting jobless and unpaid, and it is very difficult and very dangerous for us, and we don't know what will be happen. Even less who is the layoff when less than 1 year the service rent they length, who will not entitled get any wages, any benefit. So what will be happen? 10% workers out of 4.1 million workers, and also the challenges what we face, that the workers has no half salary they will get, and how they have to survive. This is the question, because people are greedy, people are not respect the workers. This kind of unfair ethical unfair practices really affected our workers, and the buyer take the decision, and they are taking most of the profit, they are taking most of the benefit, but they are not taking the responsibility, as well as our supplier. So things are very worse, and our people are depression, they have no hope, they are anger, but there is no action for them. So this is the time how we have to go for the anger, hope, action. This is the right time, because all the consumer has also responsibility, because these people are buy the clothes from our country, and you don't realize how this situation going on and how it will be worse. That is why now we request, please withdraw your all kind of decision, the suspension, cancellation, all kind of order. And the discount is very difficult. Now they're asking for discount everything.
Sorry, just one moment while we just, sorry about this. Hang on a moment, because sorry, one second, Munir. I'll patch you in a second, because Nazma was just, sorry, Nazma, could you just repeat? Because we've had, by the way, sorry to interrupt, Munir Ahmed has joined the panel. And I'm delighted to welcome him, because in a way, I did also, just so you know, invite BMG, the Bangladesh, BGMEA. So hopefully we'll be talking to them in the future as well, Rubana, who did a YouTube video appealing to the buyers. But joining us now is Munir Ahmed. And I deliberately chose Munir because outside of this narrative that is often talked about when Rana Plaza comes around, we often forget the voices of the factory owner. So Lovedesh exists to bring everyone around the table and provide solutions and hope, and not just chat the chat. So Munir, before, I just wanted to let Nazma wrap up, and we're waiting for Salahuddin to join. But Munir is now, we're going to go over to Munir in a bit, because he will give the perspective from the small factory. Many of you watching don't realize that many of the big companies will actually subcontract out to smaller companies. And one of the things that Lovedesh wants to do is bring everyone into the loop, everyone, whoever touches a garment at any point in the supply chain, because the business panel will also look at that. How do we get it right? Well, Lovedesh, we're not experts, we're not data geeks, we're not, tech people, but we do know that every time a garment is produced and anyone touches it at any time, we need to examine that process. But anyway, sorry, Nazma, you're making very valid points about the discounts, and it's okay. It's a very emotional day. I would say to people, it's a very emotional day for people in Bangladesh, because 1,136 people died. And in fact, we have a correction. It's not correction, actually. One person was found later. And in fact, the real death total is 1137. But that's because for that individual, we're going to do a special campaign, because we often want to remind people in factory collapses, it's not just the people who were found, it's the ones who get forgotten and found many weeks later. So Nazma, back to you. Please, can you explain? And we want to give hope, by the way. So this is your platform. It's very important to hear from Bangladesh Voices. Please continue, Nazma, explaining at the moment, what are some of the tactics being used to stop? Because 1st of May, and that's why Lovedesh has done this t-shirt, we're trying to help you raise funds. 1st of May is when it's payday. 4.1 million workers and all the stakeholders will probably not get their money. So Nazma, What are the things that are happening to you? You described cancelling orders, discounts. Please just take a couple of more minutes to explain that. Thank you, Nazma.
Thank you, Yasmin, because you know the cancellation, the order, the suspension, pending, also they are asking for discount. Even the goods already delivered to the customer, also they are not paying that money also. So that is the cash flow is very difficult for also the supplier to pay the worker salary. So in this regard, we need to be support from the consumer, the international trade union, labor groups, all stakeholders, how we have to make the fair business and fair ethical buying practice, because nobody is respect the workers, the neither brand, neither supplier. So we need to be strong and work together and protect our workers. You know, these workers are not protected, then factory will not survive. Then the multinational and fashion brand, their business also not survive. But why they are not protect the workers? Why they are not thinking these are the human resource and a key important issue? Because without human, you cannot make the clothes. So that is why I'm talking here. I made your clothes, I need living wage, I need my wage, I need my job, I need my protection, I need my safety. These kind of things you need to be. Who made your clothes? We made your clothes, but we don't have security. We don't have any social protection. We have no safety. We are affected. We are affected by the building collapse. We are affected with the fire incident. We lost our job when we raise our voice. When we talk about our issue, then we are blacklisted. We are lost our job. The false cases. We went to the prison. Many things happen in our life, but nobody is accounted for that. This is the right time. Even COVID-19, 2020, even the viral diseases will be affected people. People should be social distance. But our people cannot do that because they are hunger, they didn't unpaid, they didn't get the wages. That is why we need support from everyone, how we can support and how we can work them, because we need to be short-term, mid-term, long-term, what kind of support. Also, we need to immediate emergency support, which can be also helpful for our, and thank you, Lovedesh, you are organizing this event. And also I am asking all the people, please communicate also with the Lovedesh, how we can support our workers for the emergency relief also.
Thank you so much, Nazma. That was a very, very passionate from the heart, and I can see why you are so critical to making sure that the worker rights are upheld. And a quick reminder to everyone who's watching, we are here firstly because it's going to be a series of webinars now, and we have developed an initiative called Fashion in Time of Pandemic, where we will work right across all sectors, all stakeholders to find solutions, which is why please stay. Please, this webinar is being recorded, and it will actually be uploaded so that we can share this knowledge. And of course, poised to join us later on is our business panel of leading experts, where we will discuss some of the solutions. But we thought at Lovedesh, because we're very grassroots orientated, we wanted to give this day to our Bangladeshi brothers and sisters. And obviously those of you who, she's been working very hard in the background. This is my daughter, Amber. She's at university, so she's also behind Lovedesh, and I'm sorry, but this might explain why we've only done it in 2 days, but we will have the business panel, we will have this recorded and uploaded. We will also take your questions, so if you've got any questions for each of the panel members, please do write in the chat, or you can tweet us. And what we would like, I know it's a dream of ours, we would like I Remember 1136 to go viral, because it's a call to action. Please go to our website to sign up, because we'll be inviting more experts to join us in the webinars. And also we do have a campaign fundraising, because 4.1 million workers, and not just Bangladesh, all over the world, we're connected with those artisans in Palestine. We want to help all of those because they're going to really suffer come payday. Now, joining us, moving on, and we have got reports that Salahuddin is having problems technically to join, but I wanted to introduce to you Monir Ahmed. Yeah. Monir Ahmed is the owner of a apparel small factory called NCS in Chittagong. Monir, welcome, my brother. Assalamu alaikum. Apni balo achen?
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. Yeah.
So Monir, over to you.
Yeah.
Where were you on the day of Rana Plaza?
Shall I continue with English or Bangla? English, okay.
Whatever you feel comfortable, because if you want to
okay.
fully, I can translate for you. Okay.
Okay. I can speak in English even. Okay.
Sure.
What happened? 2013. Well, that accidents happened. I was in the UK, sitting from London. We had terrible news from Bangladesh. Due to the current kind of circumstances, I had the problems contacting even to some of my friends near about this areas, incidents area. What actually I found, there are so many Bangladeshi students, Bangladeshi communities had the same feelings like that we had. Having the news about 1,136 and plus other injured, it's a terrible news because the whole Bangladesh was shut down for the temporary reason, having so many people's life passes away. But the thing, what happened actually, for the few people's unaware decisions that was happened, but we were shocked on that time, and still we are keeping these losses continuously for the last 7 years and more than that. Bangladesh is still having the image issues regarding that facts.
So thank you, Monir. And then my next question, can you now give the world, everyone listening, what's happening to the smaller factories? How are you being impacted? And, what are some of the things that we can, do to support factories and factory owners like you? Because you are a very important stakeholder.
That's
and
right.
We've always championed the sector, because until there's a solution, funnily enough, I, as founder of Lovedesh, we believe that if the RMG sector didn't exist, then many more women would be at risk of exploitation, trafficking, which Andrew will later, I'm sure, touch on. And so until there's a solution, the RMG has done a lot, actually, to support the very, very poorest. And our big issue at Lovedesh is to educate very kindly, very nicely, the buyers and the big brands who are cash rich. Now, what is happening with small factories?
At this moment, for COVID issues, this is a big pandemic for the whole world. What's happening now, because Bangladesh has passed one of the terrible issues in 7 years before, all the SMEs, the small factories, medium factories had a serious trouble with the compliance issues with the foreign countries, buyers and associations. But at this moment for the COVID issues there are so many issues, like the owners like us who had so many amounts of monies from the bank loans. We are totally disappointed having this kind of the issues, because we won't be able to pay our loans on time, because all machineries, investments, salaries gone for the cash monies. We don't have the cash because we haven't got any bills from the works that we have got from the big factories. So what we are having cash problems, and workers having uncertainty for their future works and salaries. It's still like us, so many small factories, they didn't have for last 3 months proper bills for the big factories, proper billings to pay off their salaries for the workers and management staffs. So what we're having now, we're not getting any loans from the banks, we're not getting any other supports. The only thing we're looking from the government just to support us, as well as from the foreign buyers, because when foreign buyers come forward on this issue, they will pay exact money what actually the big factories wants. So when the big factories will get the money, small factories like us, they will get the bill from the big factories. If we don't get the bill fixed from the big factories, what will happen? For May and June, we won't be able to pay any salaries to the workers, because I'm not having any loan supports from the bank, because all the banks had same issues for the COVID issues. The banks had to shut down the branches. Bank had problems from big merchant banks from Dhaka and capital cities. So not getting any loans from the banks and governments, and not getting any support from big factories, we are totally in a terrible situation. I don't know actually how long that might continue, but I think we have to carry until end of 2020. That means no cash to pay off the salaries, no orders. I have so many amounts of investments, so many accessories already is getting spoiled in some ways actually. So there is nothing to do actually. Even I can't afford my own living at this moment because of the loan facilities that we had. We had to invest the whole amount to the factories that we are not getting any return from that. Hello?
Thank you so much. So Munir, thank you for sharing the perspective. And now I wanted to bring Nazma and Munir and actually, hopefully Masood to join, because we want to hand over at 12:20 to the business panel who are on standby to actually address some of these issues. I now think that we tried to get actually some brands and foreign brands in this little chat, but in 2-3 days, what can we do? Amber and I would like to give our perspective because we've been working out there. Amber, welcome.
Hello, hi everybody.
We've been out working out there for 10 years. There are solutions, okay? There are solutions. The problem is trying to get everyone to do the right thing.
We did that.
The money, Masood, thank you for joining us. Okay, thank you. So we're now discussing, well, we've got another 10 minutes and unfortunately, Salahuddin, oh, there he is, he's arrived. We have our Bangladesh panel full. We're very upset. The money exists. We don't understand and why there's not been money pots put aside from the profits to cover such emergencies. We also believe in profit share. We also have an anonymous blog post from a factory owner we'll be publishing later on today about what really goes on and something called underground bidding. Now, we're not here to actually criticize because we believe it's often the blind leading the blind. And actually there are many retailers who want to do right, who want to do good, who've told us. But unfortunately, the COVID-19, as tragic as it is, has in a way smashed everything to smithereens and forced us all to look at it and quickly look at some of the biggest problems. And there's a lot of obfuscation. And of course, in every sector, in every industry, what I've discovered is there's good people, there's bad people. What if I tell you there's very good people in the Bangladesh government, okay? They were one of the first to sponsor a Lovedesh event in November because we're all about slow fashion. We want to actually turn Bangladesh into a luxury RMG industry. We see no reason why our workers who we've worked with, who are so talented, can't be making products for some of the biggest luxury brands who could be working very closely as stakeholders to do much more to raise the standards. So that's one first solution. Second, we also want fashion brands to create fashion lines without the expense of it being at the sweat, blood and tears of people, planet and plants. We believe in organic cotton. And one of the things is we've seen a lot of discussion around climate change, but unfortunately it's leaving the people behind. Modern day slavery is still a huge reality. So I wanted to talk about some of the solutions that Lovedesh is looking at. And it's not just Lovedesh, there's lots more that we're bringing in to this regular series of webinars called Fashion in Time of Pandemic, who have been screaming, shouting, saying, here's the solution, but they don't have the money. They don't have the resources and they don't have the voice. There are platforms like Common Objective. There is also platforms up in Scandinavia who are doing ethically made products. But what we have, and I'll be publishing my own blog post later on, is sadly the rise of the influencer has also given rise to fast fashion. Now I'm going to introduce very quickly Amber, who will speak about the youth, and it's okay, but the rise of fast fashion isn't just influencers. There's a huge issue about poverty increasing in the Europe, UK, America. There are single mothers, there are people disabled, they are poor, but they also have a right to look nice, okay? So what's happened is the desire of fashion, the desire of fast fashion means that people are changing their outfits more regularly, then taking selfies, okay? Are we going to blame Apple? Are we going to blame Facebook? Of course not. Instagram, no. What we can do is try and be responsible and actually bring it right back to basis and start having a conversation that says, what the past is past, what can we do now? Fast fashion is never sustainable, was never going to be sustainable. And I'm so sorry it's taken COVID to show the entire fashion industry that in a way, it is the emperor's clothes. It's a joke. But can people be encouraged to wear and still look fashionable? Yes. Like here, I deliberately wore a jacket. I bought it from a charity shop. I have no shame. The circular economy model is the one we should go to. So I just wanted to hand over to Amber to talk about youth and how and why she's involved in Lovedesh and what some of the barriers are for youth as to why they adopt fast fashion. Yeah, Amber.
Well, personally, from a youth perspective, I think that we're becoming more conscious as a generation to the sort of fast fashion and the process behind it of people making our clothes. And I think that it's really important that we're aware of the behind the scenes and the background of the people that are making our clothes in, you know, developing countries such as Bangladesh, Ethiopia, Kenya. And I think that slowly we're sort of getting there. And I think that we're becoming more aware and we're wanting to sort of change that sort of having to not buy new clothes constantly and recycling that and throwing it to waste. We want to recycle our clothes and find a better use for it instead of just chucking it away and, you know, becoming a sort of catalyst in sort of the destruction of, yeah, the economy, the planet, yeah.
And we actually met the survivors, and one of the things I wanted to do, we actually also believe in inverting the pyramid, because at the moment it's a pyramid. Okay, so you have all the rich brands, you have the buyers, you have the buying houses, and then you have the big factories and the small factories, blah blah blah. Actually, we need to turn it upside down, and it comes from bottom up, and it's got to be grassroots led with people at the heart of everything we do. So for example, yeah, we're trying to patch in Ohidul. We didn't make this t-shirt because immediately we thought, oh gosh, we want to help people, so let's just go and make a t-shirt. No, no, no. We actually developed this product with the survivors of Rana Plaza. We took it to them. They were given it as a gift, and we helped and said, well, how do you want it to look if we're going to make something that actually helps raise funds? But look, let me just now unmute the Bangladesh panel, and Salahuddin has joined us. Okay, so and Masood. So as a panel, I'm going to hand over to you, and Salahuddin, welcome. The amazing documentary. Can you take control, Zamba? Thank you very much. Just want to hear a couple of minutes from Salahuddin. Salahuddin, welcome. Sorry you had technical problems, and it was our fault. We told you 1 hour later we got it wrong. Salahuddin, very quickly, where were you as a documentary journalist? And I know your work has been featured in the New York Times, and we already showcased your website. Where were you on the day when Rana Plaza collapsed?
Thanks for having me. I was at my home on that day. I have got a phone call from my journalist friend, and he said there's a building collapse in Savar. So I went there at 10:30. Without knowing what is happening over there. My friend just told me there was a building collapse, and it's probably a garment factory. You should come. So I went there. Okay. The first thing I did, I went there and I entered inside a clinic, and I have seen a woman worker. She just died in front of me, and I was so shocked. Then later on, I went to Enam Medical. When I entered Enam Medical, the first thing I have seen is lined up dead bodies of garment workers. So, like after a few hours, I entered the Rana Plaza collapse building. I have seen so many bodies are inside, which are who are dead already, and I've seen some people, they're stuck inside the building, but they're not dead yet. So people are trying to rescue them. People, government body, everyone is trying to rescue them. And yeah, what I did, I thought, let's document all this, because people want to see this. People need to see this, how these government workers have been treated. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Salahuddin, for sharing that. And of course, you can actually find each of our panel experts, by the way. We've added links to our website so you can find and learn more about their work. So as a panel now, Salahuddin, and I'm hoping Masood, he's disappeared, but he's actually a very busy business editor. He's given up his time, so I know he's working from home editorially. Do you want the three of you to have a discussion? And I would like, as a magic wish, just three things. Right? I haven't got a magic wand. I wish I did. If the world could grant you three wishes really quickly, what are the three things you want right now? So who'd like to go first? I think Nazma. 3 things. Let me unmute, if we unmuted everyone. And then we'll have Nazma with her 3 things, then Monir, then Salauddin. Okay, and then we'll have Masood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I want 3 wish: fair purchasing practice behavior from the global business community as well as our suppliers, and freedom of association and collective bargaining, trade union rights, living wage, decent working condition, and we want more women leadership and women voice and negotiation power, and which is still is a big gap. So this is the very important things, I think, and we need to be, especially the purchasing behavior practice need to be changed, because the poor become a poor, rich become a rich. It's not, because we wanted to equal profit share, we want equal power, we want equal power distribution for workers as well as the management. And also we want respect and dignity, which is very important. So that is why the union and supplier, the company should negotiation the daily things and daily issues, I think is, and not to treat cheap labor. That is make Rana Plaza, that is make Thursday, that is make this kind of COVID workers loss. So that is the people, workers' power is an important power. So that kind of power need to be ensured, and we need to be collaboration and work together. That kind of mentality we need to be ready. And after COVID, if something we will overcome this situation, we need to be reskill the worker, reskill the sector, reskill everything, and how we can make productivity and different sector and other business also we need to include. Only if we dependent with the textile sector, it is, you see the capitalism, how that they are designing, it's collapse because they cannot put it any heavy things, it's a very light things. So we need to be educated, our girls, how we can found the other employment and other job opportunities, which is decent and respectfully, they can earn the living wages and they can make their betterment and good education for their children, and next generation should be the good educated people.
Thank you, Nazma. I'm so sorry, because guess what? We have got amazing news. I don't know if you can see, but patched in, just give us a few minutes, and I know our business panel won't mind waiting a little bit. I'm so sorry. We've managed to track down Ohidul. He was a survivor. Look, he doesn't have a smartphone. We've been working with the some of the survivors in Rana Plaza since April last year when I flew out, and we developed the Lovedesh t-shirt. Now, Ohidul didn't have any much minutes and had to top it all up. But Ohidul is joining live from Sava, and all I've got is his voice. Ohidul, assalamu alaikum. Ha, bolen. So, Shuno, Ohidul, I'm just going to ask Ohidul what he's doing and what he wants to have to say to the world, because he was a factory quality controller. I think Ohidul is featured in one of our Lovedesh videos, so we'll put a tweet out and a special clip of him talking about his dreams and hopes. But Ohidul, Shuno, আমরা তো এখন রানা প্লাজা এইটা নিয়ে আমরা ডিসকাশন করতেছি। Ohidul, তোমার কি মেসেজ আছে দুনিয়াকে বলবেন? What is your message to the world? তোমার মেসেজ কি দুনিয়াকে তুমি বলতে চাও?
আমি বলতে চাই যে যারা, আমি একটা কারখানা করতে চাই যেখানে আমার ওখানে একটা প্রতিষ্ঠানের জমি আছে, ওই জমির উপরে একটা কারখানা করলে যারা বেকার, যারা কিছু লোকজন আছে যারা রানা প্লাজার কর্মী, যারা তাদের থাকা ব্যবস্থা আমি করবো, যখন বসে একটা কাজকর্ম করতে পারে, যে একটা গরুর খামার দেবো, ওই গরুর খামারের উপরে ওদের একটা আয় বা উন্নত প্রশিক্ষণ দেবো, প্রশিক্ষণের উপরে ওরা পালন করবে, গরু চাষ করবে, ওখান থেকেই তারা কর্মজীবন ওরা পিছনে তখন।
Okay, Shuno, Amra, if necessary, we're going to patch in our business panel now, because obviously we've allocated, and I know they're very busy people. Ohidul, Shuno, ধন্যবাদ ভাইয়া। হ্যাঁ, শুনো, তুমি একটু আমরা পরে ফোন করতেছি, দরকার হলে তোমার সাথে আলাদা আমরা বাংলাদেশ প্যানেল যারা সময় দিতে পারবো আমরা সবাই হিরবার আলোচনা করব, ওকে? কিন্তু শুনো, তোমার জন্য আর তোমরা যারা খুব কষ্ট করে আর যারা মারা গেছে, তোমাদের জন্য 1 মিনিট সাইলেন্স আমরা রাখছি, ওকে? আর আমি তো টি শার্ট তোমাদের টি-শার্ট আমরা পরে রাখছি ওকে তো শুনো আমি একটু পরে ফোন করি ওকে ভাইয়া তুমি ভালো থাকো okay speak to you later bye so can we now I'm so sorry the business panel we are running over time and we didn't get a chance but I'm going to hand it over to Andrew now okay so Andrew is ready to take over and chair the business panel so once I find Andrew I need to make him host so over to you I'm changing and welcome to Andrew Wallis
okay let's just unmute Jaya and Dom. Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I just, with me on the panel is Jay Chakrabarty and Dominic McVeigh. I just want to sort of have a wider discussion, but just sort of first allow them to introduce themselves, but really with this question, which is, why do you do what you do? Jay, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, it's your fault actually. So up until I met Andrew, my knowledge of modern slavery was virtually nothing, which is shocking given that I'm Bengali, where I come from, where my family is. Once he explained it to me, suddenly a lot of my childhood memories completely changed. And I realized that sometimes when we went back to my grandmother's village, which is on the border of Bangladesh and India, the children that I didn't see from year to year that I'd seen before, suddenly it kind of made sense that those village kids might well have been trafficked. And indeed, that is probably what happened to them. So after talking to Andrew, I realized that there was a part we could play as data geeks, because Andrew had explained that we have very little visibility in terms of data around modern slavery, especially within supply chains. And that's where we made that commitment back in 2014, actually, to do that in partnership with Andrew and Unseen.
Great, thanks, Jay. And Dom, same question to you. Sort of, you said in your intro earlier on, your commitment to challenging the apparel sector in terms of how the supply chains work, how the factories work, and the crucial role that they play in terms of both supporting the workers, empowering the workers, but actually challenging the status quo. So, Dom, why do you do what you do?
No, I think we have to remember, particularly in the garment industry, your assets are your colleagues. It's a very labor-intensive industry, and if you don't treat your colleagues with respect, with compassion, and with support, you're not going to have productive colleagues. You're not going to be productive yourself. I mean, put simply, if you turn up to work hungry and the factory refuses to feed or water you, you're not going to perform. A bit like if you turn up for work here in England and you're hungry and not watered, you know that your day is not going to be as productive as it could be otherwise. So it often goes beyond me that there are business leaders and factory owners and brands out there who don't consider the basics of humanity and humility towards others and providing that dignity. I came into the garment industry in my late 20s, no experience in it, having previously been invested in publishing, health and beauty, cosmetics, oil and gas, and came into an industry where I was quite shocked, to be frank, with what was considered the norm, and also what was considered compliant. I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about modern slavery, but as we see, for a number of indexes, you get a tick for complying with the Modern Slavery Act if you have 3 lines or if you have 300 pages and an actual policy. So how do we differentiate the good from the bad? And a number of compliance rating systems are red, green, or amber, and most factories just stick in amber, and there's no incentive for them to become green, and they keep plodding along, and every year they make sure they just don't slip into that red zone. The bar is not being moved forwards, and I didn't want to go by what brands were telling me to do. I wanted to, of course, meet their standards, but take it above and beyond and show to others, the brands and factories, what a successful business can look like by doing good, and have always stood by the motto of doing good is good business, particularly when you're working with people. This isn't about oiling cogs. These are about human beings, brothers and sisters. And I just knew that I had to treat people well to have a successful business. And you know, it shocks me when people say, "Oh, you're so good to your workforce. You're so kind." I'm shocked that people say that. You have to be an idiot to treat people badly in a labour-intensive organisation, for starters. So I'm no you know, saviour of the industry. I'm just doing the not just the right thing. I'm doing what should be considered the minimum, not considered above and beyond. And that's what's very frustrating.
Thanks, Dom. Just to introduce me, because I think a lot of people have joined since we were sort of doing those initial introductions. So I'm the CEO of a charity based here in the UK called Unseen, and we do 5 main things. So we work directly with survivors of trafficking and modern slavery identified in the UK across all the different forms of modern slavery, including forced labour. We also work with all the major statutory agencies, helping them and educating them, and being much more victim orientated as they look and search and help set people free from those situations. We also work increasingly with businesses, and really, to Dom's point, helping the businesses, and they are often the businesses at the top of the supply chain, understand what the issues are around transparency in supply chains, what it means in terms of the impact on victims that get caught up in forced labour, and what they need to do to change, not just write procedures, but actually the real things that they need to change. We also run the UK's Modern Slavery Helpline, which is it does what it says on the tin, and then we work with governments, and I chaired the report that led to the Modern Slavery Act, and Unseen was the lead organisation that was calling for transparency in supply chain legislation. And just as a bit of disclosure, I used to work for 2 of the businesses that are at the top of the supply chains within the garment and the apparel sector. So I'm sort of poacher turned gamekeeper now in that whole process. I just want to in light of sort of the current situation, but obviously, you know, the globe is in this COVID-19 pandemic crisis. Normality is no longer normal. Again, Jaya and Dominic, from your perspective, what are sort of the immediate impacts that you're seeing? And Jaya, I think in terms of sort of just practice, you know, level of transparency, what's the data saying, and then Dom, in terms of, you know, other immediate things that you're having to do in order to adhere to your values and priorities that you have in running businesses.
I'll just start just by saying that what we're seeing globally, I guess, is many contracts being cancelled and companies going into themselves, obviously thinking about survival, or at least survival in their own measures. And I think it's interesting, given that transparency tends to go down in situations like this, because it's about protecting what is already there. I don't know what you're seeing, but I totally agree with you, Dom, that we need to move from tick box all the way through to evidence-based and live. And right now, people are less likely to share something going on right now.
And Dom?
I mean, the biggest challenge we have is actually trying to read through the lines of what the brand's objectives are. You know, we've seen big statements out over the last day or 2 convened by the ILO, but these are statements, they're not legally binding, where brands are saying they're going to do the right thing, but everyone's interpretation is different of what that right thing may be. We hear brands saying that they're not going to cancel orders, but as we know, because factories can't ship, the POs are going to expire anyway. So it's transparency is something we do not have yet, and I've been working very hard with governments which are going to be affected by the garment sector, think tanks, universities, to try and actually get a full picture of what brands are doing, what is happening, talking to the factory managers. And historically, when orders were cancelled, even though the factories had legal recourse to enforce those POs, they never did for fear of not getting future business. I think we're in a position now where factories have come to their, I wouldn't call it senses, but they've certainly grown strength and are realizing that if they don't enforce their legal rights, that they are going to go bust. So it's not about doing the favors for the brands to make sure that they're not penalized in the future, but actually they're going to have to take the brands to task to make sure they pay, otherwise these factories won't exist anymore. Because traditionally when there was a downturn, we saw brands coming asking for retrospective discounts. When goods weren't selling through, there was all kinds of tricks that they would try and play to get out of POs, and the factories knew that it wasn't right, but they didn't really have a leg to stand on. But today, the factories do have to stand up. They should stand up, and most importantly, we have to do it for the workers. And ultimately, if brands don't pay for their products, or most importantly, we've heard earlier from some of the Bangladeshi-based speakers, the impact of raw materials. Those factories have borrowed money from banks to buy those raw materials. Those banks are often state-owned banks in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, who have borrowed the money from the World Bank or the IMF. So by not just paying the factories, you then impact the workers, the most vulnerable. You also impact the banking sector, and now you're forcing impoverished countries to have to go beg, borrow and steal from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund to try and re-prop up their organizations just because British and American retailers didn't want to pay for orders. So why should the developing world be propping up the developed world in that sense? And these are some of the challenges that ministers need to grapple with, because it is becoming, there will be political fallout over this. Politicians will not be in jobs, and ultimately the brands will carry on as normal, just dressing it up in alternative ways. And we have to, as Jaira said, get that transparency, understand what is actually happening. I mean, George, it's no secret, it's been in BBC. They've asked for 70% discount on all their goods. New Look has told factories that have goods on the shop floor to come and collect them. You don't walk into Starbucks, order a coffee, sit it on your table, and then say to Starbucks, you know what, I've drunk half of it, didn't like the taste of the rest, I'm not paying you. So why should New Look do that to factories? Why should they have your product in their shops and then say, you know what, I'm deciding just not to pay you? It's illegal. Ultimately, it all comes down to it being illegal. We need to support the Bangladeshi manufacturers. We need to support the workers in the garment sector and actually convene action as opposed to conversation on this. And forums like this allow us to step that forwards.
Thanks, Dom.
And also to add one more point that's been triggered by what Dom was saying, we've also noticed that the insurance sector and our insurance policies aren't worth the paper that they're written on. And consequently, businesses are relying much more on their leverage and their influence over their suppliers, rather than going back to their insurers and saying, hey, you guys need to cover this. So there is a huge part for politics to play to hold those organizations to account, because you can't just rewrite the system and say, yeah, we'll cover you for any eventuality, but not the one that was just happening right now. It just, the whole system needs an overhaul.
And I think that's a nice lead in really to the next point that I wanted us to discuss, which is around where did the system go wrong? And often one of the things that I repeatedly say is systems are perfectly designed to deliver the results that you get. And I think we're seeing in the midst of this crisis the results that the system is being teed up to deliver. And I think the other problem is also around this issue of procurement, because having worked in retail, I know that procurement is based on one metric and one metric only, which is what's the profit margin. And that just drives bad behavior all the way down the supply chain. That ultimately impacts workers, because that's the only criteria by which the system operates. And so Dom and Jaya, what's your, Dom, I think you've already sort of critiqued the current system, but how do we move forward? What's the new system? There's people talking about the donut economy, the circular economy, a much more sustainable economy. And I did some research based off some research that Nordea Bank did, where they looked at, if you were to apply the principles of decent work and the contextualized living wage paid all the way down the supply chain, what's the impact of that? And they looked at both ends of the equation. You know, what's the impact on the price of a pair of jeans? And in the West, it was about an uplift of 50 cents. But actually, the greater impact was in Bangladesh and, you know, around the globe where these items are made, where by adhering to decent work, you know, you saw quality go up, you saw productivity go up, but actually critically, what you saw was people being able to support themselves and their families because they were paid a decent wage. And that had an immediate impact on the level of children that had to work. And then they were able to stay in education much longer. We know all the benefits that flow from that. So how do we design this new system that works for everybody, that benefits everybody, and ensures that when we hit crises like this, that we actually adhere to the values that we say are our values?
Who starts?
You went first, Jaya.
Okay, right. So I'll probably just echo what you've just said, but from the data perspective, in terms of if a company pays their suppliers on time and those suppliers pay their suppliers on time, so that that supplier at whatever point they are at the end of the chain is able to pay a real living wage to those employees, then those employees become ethical consumers, better able to defend themselves from crises like this. So it all starts with the top of the chain and being fair, fair paying, and also paying their own employees on time, fairly, at a decent wage where they can make ethical buying decisions. That's what needs to happen. And we have legislation here in the UK, but it needs to go everywhere. And we need to engage with that and report live. We can't expect that reporting 12 months after year end will not deliver change. Reporting 6 months after year end is already historical. It's harder to hide and massage figures if you're reporting live. And we need to move to that. The data exists, the technology exists. There should be no barriers.
What can be done? I mean, it is a real. I don't want to say mess. I wouldn't call the garment industry a mess, because there are some great success stories coming out of it. But I think brands can learn a lot from organisations like Patagonia, for example. Still more to be done. But if Patagonia can sell denim jeans, organic denim jeans, and have full transparency on the factories that's manufacturing it, the workers that have been involved in it, where the raw materials have come from, and sell those denim jeans at 60 bucks retail, organic, with a clear process and dignified salaries. Why are other denim brands charging 200 bucks and not able to deliver and not able to make money, right? Patagonia makes money and they reinvest their profits back into buying up rainforests. And yet we have brands losing cash hand over fist who are charging through the nose and treating their supply chains in an absolute mess. I think what I would say is that I think the disconnect in the brands comes between the incentives. So there are some very good brands with some very bad people and some very bad brands with some very good people. But I would say that the compliance teams generally have their hearts in the right place. You don't get into compliance if you're not wanting to do good. Now, you may get tarnished or your views might change, but where I often see the battles for factories and brands, and which directly impacts the workers, is the buyers. The buyers don't have empathy, they don't have the compassion, they're not incentivized to do the right thing. And they're often pushed by the finance department to deliver margin, no matter what way that happens. And, it's very easy to calculate how long it takes to make a t-shirt. And if a factory has 10 lines and it can only make 1,000 t-shirts a day, and you order 10,000 t-shirts a week, that factory is going to have to illegally subcontract. That factory may be doing excess overtime without paying its workers. You also know the quality is not going to be very good. So buyers are knowingly placing orders with factories with capacity they don't have, and they're putting huge pressure on these factories. And the factories that do comply and do the right thing end up having the orders cancelled and being stuck with the raw materials. So that's often not an area where compliance gets in, as you said, Jared, until probably 6 months later when they find labels in a factory that wasn't audited, or that there's quality issues on the factory floor. And I want to talk a little bit about Rana Plaza, because this tragedy that we're still faced with, there is still risks, and thousands of people have lost their lives for these brands. But one of the things that really shocked me is that a number of the brands that were identified of manufacturing in Rana Plaza, their share price recovered after 2 weeks of the disaster. Their share price recovered after 2 weeks of that disaster. And what that showed was that, and that's why we saw little action, I think, from a number of the brands to make a difference. Some brands really sharpened their pencils, others didn't. Now, the brands that didn't sharpen their pencils after Rana Plaza that were discovered in there, for example, British Home Stores, they're bust. The brands really need to understand that if change doesn't happen, if they do not bring correct process and start treating people with dignity and compassion in their supply chains, they end up with shit products, pardon my French, and they end up with disasters such as Rana Plaza, and they ultimately go out of business because the customer's not interested. Debenhams was found in there, look at the product. House of Fraser was found in there, look at the product. Debenhams and House of Fraser went bust because the product was horrendous, and it's because they were treating factories badly, they were cutting corners, and it continues to this day. So if there's any brands watching this, if you don't treat your supply chains properly, you'll be looking for new jobs soon, because it simply comes down to that. So we need to get the buyers to understand the impact that they're having by cutting corners on the human impact on people, and ultimately the job losses that we're now facing here in the UK. It's all intertwined. And as soon as people start to grasp that, and we talk about the circular economy, paying it forward pays back. And the sooner we can start to grasp that, I'll keep saying, the sooner things can change. And we've got to, I feel that, Jai, we need to start pushing the buyers to educate them on the impacts of their purchases, the impacts of their changes, what cancelling POs mean, the legalities of that, and empowering the factories to make a stand and start suing brands for treating them improperly.
Thanks, Dom. There's some great questions coming up in the group chat, and I'm conscious of time, so I want to just try and answer some of them. I also noticed that my friend Rachel Wilshaw is part of this. Rachel, I'm going to unmute you because I think it'd be great to hear from you as well. And one of the questions is for us as a panel is, and Dom, you've already mentioned Patagonia, and they're often my go-to in terms of, like, if Patagonia, which is a £1 billion business, can do it, then there's no excuse for saying it's not possible, and it's not. You can't have a great business and also do the right thing for the planet and for the workers, etc. But Rachel, I know you've done great work at Oxfam, but just, are there other sort of businesses and examples out there who are, leading, they're showing leadership on these issues? Sorry to put you on the spot, Rachel. Oop. Are you there, Rachel? Here we go, technical problems. Never work with technology, dogs and children. But Dom, Dom and Jai, any sort of other sort of leading organizations out there that are showing it is possible? It is possible to have a good business with workers treated decently, but also, a profitable business that is sustainable and is doing the right thing for the planet and for people.
I can't talk about this particular sector, but I can talk about other related brands that have been doing really good, including the Co-op Group, which have been very good in terms of the food sector and what they've been working with in terms of raising the bar for their workers and the standards and taking them with them. But I will also say, in terms of the feedback that we've had from buyers on the inside, from various different companies, has been that there is a will to do the right thing. A lot of them are aware of what's going on, but the inside the company, the measures have not been changed. And you're very right, Dom, that these are the things that need to change to empower the buyer to be able to make those decisions. So we from the data perspective think that if we're able to make that data transparent and available to everyone, that will at least enable every brand to engage with the reality of the impact that they have on the world.
And Don, same question. Do you any other examples or?
Well, I think we need, you know, for example, we know that brands which play loose and wild with supply chains are risky brands financially. So we got to get the banks to understand, the lenders to understand the credit risk of a brand which has an unethical supply chain. Now, if the banks start to build that into their lending criteria, and they see that brands are not acting responsibly, we will then see banks charging them higher interest rates, because the higher the risk, the higher the rate. And at the moment, banks can't understand the risks involved in poor supply chain. Now, all these banks that have been lending to Debenhams and House of Fraser and BHS in the past, if they had knowledge of the supply chain atrocities that that have been alleged, that lending would have been higher, and we could have reduced the exposure to the banks, to the pension funds, to the British people, and to the Bangladeshi workers and factories a lot sooner. But instead, the hole gets dug deeper because people don't actually really understand the business model and the metrics of it. So I think there's an argument to be said for the banks and information to be provided in a way which we can actually start building that into the rating systems for organisations. I also think there's a lot still to be done for governments. In the UK, we still have what's called the Enterprise Investment Scheme. I really think this should be retermed the Ethical Investment Scheme, because why should I get tax relief for investing into a business that pays women less than men, that buys from factories in Bangladesh, which is not supporting its workers, and I get a bonus for that? So there's not enough digging done into these ethical investment tax schemes, because once there's certain criteria met, the businesses can go and do what they like. And there's a lot of fashion brands built on ethical investment schemes. How do we know those fashion brands are not causing detriment to planet, society and people? And then organisations like DFID and Oxfam and other NGOs and the ILO are having to go in and pick up the pieces for tax incentives we've given here in the UK. So there's a number of mechanisms available to politicians to actually start enforcing change. Now, I know there's a question here, people might go to China, but that's why we need to change the laws here. We change the laws here. And I just want to touch on a point on the Modern Slavery Act. You know, and I want to interlink it to the Anti-Bribery Act. So as a business owner, as the director of an organisation, I am legally liable, criminally liable for corruption, bribery in my organisation, whether I know or do not know about it. Right. So knowingly or unknowingly, if corruption has taken place in my organisation, I have broken the law. So why, if I knowingly or unknowingly spend money with an organisation which I know is abusing its people, creating human atrocities, enslaving people, undermining planet and environment, and effectively destroying lives, why am I therefore also not criminally liable? Because bribery is an atrocious thing, and it destroys economies and people's lives, but also does enslaving people in corrupt supply chains. So there are ways that we need to start moving the laws to directors' responsibilities. And I'll give you an example just to finish on. When Trump brought in sanctions on North Korea for the garment sector, every sourcing director in the US was having a heart attack because they were at risk of going to prison. And they didn't actually know that whether their goods sourced in China were actually coming from China or North Korea, because a lot of them suspected that their goods were coming from North Korea. And you saw huge deep dive audits and investigations to make sure goods were not coming from North Korea. That's because they became criminally liable. Now we need to make the directors of organizations and buyers here in the UK criminally liable for knowingly or unknowingly buying from factories that abuse their staff and destroy planet and environment. And then you will see the change. People won't jump to China or Bangladesh when things change in those countries. The law sits here, responsibility sits here. So that's one thing, that's an idea. I don't know.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, just a bit of political history. We got what we got because that was all we could get at the time. You know, when the transparency in supply chains legislation came through in the UK, the context was a government that was trying to slash business regulation. But I think now, we know so much more in terms of what's going on. I agree with you, Dom, that we need to move to this due diligence, this being criminally liable, whether you know it or not, because of what we're unseen deal with, which is the outrun of this, which is victims. And picking up the pieces and helping them put their lives together. I'm really conscious we've got 7 minutes left. I want to just sort of end with one quick question, and then I will hand back to Yasmin, which is on this point of forced labor. And maybe this is where those of you in Bangladesh can also chime in as well. But how do we spot the signs of exploitation, and how do we create an environment where people can safely report without fear of repercussions around them, but also I think for businesses that they can safely report as well, because I think if you discover if you're somewhere within the supply chain and you want to safely report, probably holding you against that is, well, will I just then be turfed out of the contract because I'm reporting that exploitation has entered into the supply chain? So any thoughts on that? There first.
I think from the data perspective, where there is no visibility on supply chain or no evidence transparency, you'd start to ask questions at that point. We all know that certification accreditations can be forged, so they mean virtually nothing. We need independent and unannounced audits, and I get that from my friends who are in audits, that having planned audits obviously don't deliver because you get the answers you want as opposed to the ones that you should be looking for. So we really need to know that the data is coming through on a regular basis, rather than at times that are convenient and match with compliance, which is always the lowest bar. If you just meet barely scraping into minimum requirements for compliance, you're never going to do this. We need more. We need people to go well beyond.
Yeah, and I know Jay and I have talked about this, but we've also seen in the data, where you have non-compliance in one area, when you start digging deeper, you find more and more other areas where they're not complying, that, whether it's the gender pay or late reporting or late payment or direct disqualification. So there is that pattern of sort of bad behavior that comes through. But Dom, how do we move to this? And I've often talked in business conferences, and I usually start with, look, we're all guilty. That's not the issue. The issue is, how do we get out of this mess? How do we create the environment where actually it is the right thing to report and to be completely transparent where these things have crept in? Because I know certainly from the criminal side of things that the exploiters will use every trick in the book to try and illegally insert their exploitation or their abuse of workers into a legitimate supply chain, because it's about how they can extract money from the whole process. So how do we change the equation so that it's safe to report, but it's also safe for businesses to report when they find problems, and there isn't the backlash against it?
But this is, I think I touched upon this a little bit earlier, Andrew, where often factories are getting messed around or workers are getting messed around, but for fear of losing the jobs or fear of losing future orders from the brands, little is done. It's not reported. They don't want to upset the status quo. And also, I think there's, you have these huge supplier agreements. The factories don't understand what they mean. They might send them to local lawyers who are very well versed in domestic law, but might not necessarily understand English contract law. So from the off, you're on the back foot because you don't know what you've signed, you don't know where you stand. And we've seen that lack of education for the factories and training become a major problem. And we're talking about bailout packages at the moment for Bangladesh, for Sri Lanka, for certain countries, and I don't have huge confidence on those bailouts coming. But some of the feedback I've given to DFID this week is that if we could legally get the factories to explore their legal options, then we might not need to bail the factories out because the brands have the cash and the brands should be paying. I mean, George is owned by Walmart. Their share price is rocketing. They're one of the 20 most valuable companies in the world. And George has asked for a 70% discount on all its orders. And I'm not sure, I don't think there's any legality to that discount they're requesting, but the factories don't necessarily know that. And some of these factories, their only customer will be George. So they might feel loath to take it on the chin and see if they can work out a recovery somehow. So I do think we need to help the factories understand their rights better. There's a lot of work and a lot of very good and important work that continues to happen and must continue to happen for workers' rights and training of workers, but the business owners need support as well. I see that by supporting the business owners, they will understand how to support their workforce better, but also protect their businesses to protect their workforces. I think that there needs to be a lot of work done in that space in country, and it is, you know, those how do we? So we talked about the pyramid earlier, and it's right. There's a few. It's very sharp at the top. But I'll go back to my previous points as well, Andrew. I do think that we need to start seeing much more political intervention. The ministers need to realise the economic impacts that it will have on the UK by rich businesses not paying for their orders and not treating factories with due care and respect. And how do we make sure people don't these loopholes? That's the thing. Who's drafting these laws? The brands understand the issues. The civil servants, the law writers, don't necessarily understand them. So you often see things snuck in there. So we need to convene on this, and I think we need to mount the pressure. I wonder, Andrew, just to finish, if there is already cases to be taken against British brands for human rights abuses. And if there are pro bono organisations out there who could potentially take civil action against brands for knowingly or unknowingly, and let's just put it this way, ignorance isn't bliss, for the abuses that might be happening in supply chains. And if there's a civil action that could potentially be taken on behalf of
I think there is, because actually if you look at the Modern Slavery Act, what it says right at the top is personal persons, and persons can be a body corporate, can commit these offences. So I think, you know, what it needs is lawyers to test it in the court of law as to whether we can go down that route.
Definitely.
We're about to run out of time. I want to thank Dom and JF for their insights. I just want to finish with this before I hand back to Yasmin. I had the honour a couple of years ago of being in India. I was talking at M&S's International Supplier Conference. They asked me to talk about the realities of modern slavery there, and then visiting some of their supplier factories. You know, and obviously saw the good ones. But I came away, even from being in those factories, just with a real connection and respect, both for the workers, but also the product. And I think one of the things that's happened in the last 30 or 40 years with globalization is, yes, there's been benefits, but there's also been downsides. But we've become disconnected from how things are made and how things reach market. And I think that's another part of the equation that needs to happen, that re-education, that reacquaintance with goods and with items and with those people that work really hard and skillfully for those goods. And with that, I'm going to finish and hand back to Yasmin.
Yes, thank you. It was absolutely incredible. And I know that for some time, our Bangladesh panel, who I'm going to unmute, and obviously if you have to rush off, I just want you to know how important your voices are. Dom, my daughter is sitting next to me. We've got goosebumps. Andrew, we've got goosebumps. We've been working on this for 10 years and I'm getting quite emotional now. You are the change that we've been waiting for. And thank you, Jaya, because we're not known, we're not rich, we're not famous, we don't have any platform, and we got so fed up that nobody is thinking about 1st of May. And I would remind everyone, 1st of May, you saw the passion in Nazma's voice. 4.1 million workers, and that's just in Bangladesh. What about the ones in Latin America? We've even got factory workers in UK and USA who are suffering modern day slavery. So thank you to my incredible, amazing panel. Because when I asked them, and I'm not going to share who, I've been beating down the door saying, please, please, to very, very prominent, whatever, nobody gave us a time, but Dominic, you did, Andrew, you did, Jaya, you did. And if you need to go and rush, that's fine. I wanted to let my Bangladesh panel know. Yeah, sure, go. Thank you so much, Andrew. You know, and by the way, Lovedesh will be slowly supporting the modern day slavery helpline. because I know that Unseen needs to have a lot of support as well, a lot of charities. So we're going to say bid adieu, but Bangladesh panel, if you
Thanks,
have
everyone.
questions, thank you. We'll collect them
Thank
and we'll send it to Dominic and Andrew and Jaya, who unfortunately obviously are with us only until 1 p.m. So thank you so much, the business panel. And here's to a greater future. Thank you.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe, everyone.
Thank you to all
Bye.
of you.
So we're just going to return to the Bangladesh panel, and let me just help actually, yeah. So Jaya and everyone's out of the room. Jaya, sorry, Jaya. She's very good. She remind me, it rhymes with Slayer, and she is a Slayer. She's a data queen Slayer. Thanks, Jaya. Take care. Lovely to have you. So a couple of things. I don't know if you've got any more questions, but we'll also be collecting from the panel, what are the 3 wishes? Amber, when you and I set this up, and fashion in the time of pandemic, we don't want to just chat the chat. We need solutions. We need them fast. So Nazma, I think it's fair that we want to come back to you and Monir, because we've got 2 massive stakeholders. We've got Nazma, who represents the workers' voices. We've got Monir, who represents actually the small factories. And we've still got Salahuddin, who's a documentary journalist, but actually he's a resident, he's a citizen. So, you know, he's going to speak from a citizen perspective, because enough is enough. For too long, we have seen platforms where they say they talk, but they're not engaging grassroots voices. And as you saw, we had Ohidul, who is a survivor from Rana Plaza. Actually, he's part of our strategic alliance. So I will say my bit, but I wanted to unmute the 3 of you, and shortly we'll actually, whoever wants to stay, but this is being recorded, we're going to show a few films, and if you need to take a break, have a bit of a coffee, get a snack, please join us. But over to Salahuddin and to Nazma and to Munir. Having heard the discussions, what would you, I'll hand over to Munir first.
I heard all of the voices from Dominic, Andrew, and Joya. What their views about the buyers' behaviors is the main things. And secondly, they're also wanting to have the higher authorities to deal with that. This is a positive for Bangladesh factories and workers too. What they have chosen to set out the further conglomerate, like the joint mentorship for the buyers, for the authorities, and also the local authorities to watch actually who is not paying to the factories for their orders. Those are the things I point out are hard so far. I know is a good team for the all factories in Bangladesh, not only in Bangladesh, in other countries even. For Bangladesh perspective is good. I think I appreciate their views on particular facts. Yes.
Thank you. And Monir, can I ask you, did we get round to your 3 wishes? What are your 3 wishes?
Yeah, the first wish, I want to wake up in the morning listening that COVID is totally gone because we are free of COVID. And second choice, the buyers and foreign authorities coming forward to work with Bangladeshi authorities as a partnership basis. Just to support us just to have the relief from the COVID pandemic. The third intention, like the wishes, factories should be started production, and we like to see the workers getting paid for the Ramadan and Eid, and we want to see everyone is feeding their families and they're happy.
So thank you very much. Now I'm going to go over to Nazma, who is going to actually just give us, you've given us your 3 wishes. We'll be collecting that actually and putting them out on social media. But Nazma, having heard the business panel, what are any comments you want to add?
Yeah, thank you. Because I was the 3 comment that should be transparency, accountability, and collaboration and action. We can work together, the business, brand, government, union, all stakeholders together, and make better and sustainable industrial relation and industrial culture.
Okay.
That's
And
the thing.
thanks. And what did you think of the business panel and some of the comments that Dominic was making? I mean, here's an interesting one. The idea that potentially human rights lawyers should do a test case and actually either criminal or civil, you know, press to take a test case and have any brands liable under the Modern Day Slavery Act. Would you obviously, Nazma, what's your comments on that?
Yeah, because I also agree with. I listen all the business panel, and I agree with all of them because we need to be accountable, and also there will be penalized, and also there should be legal accountable things because there is no punishment, there is nothing. So how we can make them those kind of accountable if people are not doing proper business and running properly? So these kind of things are very important, and ethical purchasing behavior and modern day slavery. This kind of things need to be changed.
Okay, thank you, Nazma. We've just lost you on the video, and we're just going to reach out to Salahuddin. And for those of you, we're actually going to show the video that Nazma, containing Salahuddin's photographs, actually in a moment. But Salahuddin, what do you think as a citizen now, as a citizen of Bangladesh, what are the 3 wishes that you want, and as a message to the fashion buyers and to the general public? What are your 3 wishes on behalf of perhaps as a citizen of Bangladesh? So let me just unmute you, sorry. Okay.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, as a journalist, I really don't want to document such incident because this incident hurt everyone, even who are every photographers, every videographers who go to such events. They that's their job, but still it hurts them, and I'm sure it hurts the world as also. My second wish, the buyers, they should not leave the workers back because the workers they earn the money for them. So at the workers' bad moment, they should not leave them alone.
Thank you very much. So we've heard from all 3 panelists, and if you've got time, I was going to just show the video, share it now, and follow that up with a short clip of Ohidul, who obviously dialed in via audio, but we're just going to switch now. If you all take a moment, we're just going to take a couple of minutes. So if you want to take a glass of water, make a cup of tea, please come and join us in 2 minutes, but we're going to start playing the video that we did with Nazma, which is, I hope you agree, is a very powerful. And I also want to give a shout out to Maisha Begum, a very young activist. I've been following her. She does amazing work. She's also ethical. You can find her. She's been actually talking about the need as a young person herself to actually change the fashion. So please go and check her out. This platform, Fashion in Time of Pandemic, isn't about Lovedesh. It's for all of us who want to do good. We don't care how rich you are. We don't care how, whether you've got, we don't need you to have money. We just want to help you. So without further ado, just give us a couple of minutes while, oh look, I think we're ready to go. So, and don't forget, we have actually, before I start, I wanted to say Masood Rami, who's the business editor of one of the biggest dailies, Color Kantor, 10 million online and 3 million. Hopefully he'll be doing an op-ed, because we also need to start educating slowly some of the bigger factories and also the workers. We wanted to keep the Bangladeshi panel obviously involved, because we will be sending this video so they can show it to the garment workers. But Masood Rami sent his 3 wishes, and I just wanted to read them out. Number 1, because he had to go off, he's got a busy deadline. Number 1, government and international community must ensure the safety and wages of workers in COVID-19. Number 2, buyers must have to ensure fair price and welfare of workers. Number 3, there is a need, Masood Rami says, business editor, long-term sustainability plan for the ready-made garment sector and export diversification. So those are the 3 questions. And Salahuddin, if you can just stay, because we never got you to actually talk about your photographs, but we're about to share the screen of, Amber's going to take over, and she's going to help me find the screen. And here we go. And let's share screen. There we are, it's that one. It's not working. There we are. Can we play?
সবাইকে শুভেচ্ছা। আমি নাজমা আক্তার আওয়াজ ফাউন্ডেশন এবং লাভদেশের পক্ষ থেকে আপনাদেরকে
it was not required to have reversed. You had to claim a refund back.
Sorry, where's this?
Yes,
Oh.
sure, sir. Okay. Sir,
Oh,
one
come
of the
on, sorry,
SC has
Paul, I
not
don't
done.
know why. That's YouTube webinar. Sorry about that. Okay, so thank you so much, and we will slowly be wrapping this up. One more thing, I just wanted to share, Salahuddin, thank you so much for donating your photographs to this very important cause. I Remember 1136. We will be hosting this event every year. My dream actually is next year to do a concert or something, and eventually to bring the survivors from Rana Plaza and all factory fires around the world, because I think in March, by the way, was it the New York Triangle factory fire? We're going to try and trace down people who died for fashion all around the world, you know, stretching back many generations, because it's time fashion heard from voices. But Salahuddin, how do you feel now seeing those pictures again? And you know, as a documentary journalist now, what my question to you is this: the art of photography. Why do you do what you do? And I'll just unmute you. Thank you.
See, as a photojournalist, I consider myself as a social documentary photographer. So I do whatever it belongs to the society. I know my work will not change anything, but I think this photograph will touch someone's heart, so that the positive things start from there. So yeah, that's why I do photography. That's why I do such events, so that everyone see and everyone realize what happened.
Thank you so much, Salahuddin. And of course, you know, my Bangladesh panel is the night before Ramadan. So actually, slowly, unless anyone's got any questions, feel free, you can tweet us. You can tweet us, you can get in touch. We have a special email set up, fitop@lovedesh.com, because this is very separate to Lovedesh. You know, we did want to show you all, I think it's really important to show you Ohidul, who is one of the survivors. And please, 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 we've got a couple of things to share with you. Firstly, no one is free of the blood stains on their hands, either directly or indirectly, okay? Secondly, what past is past, we've got a new future. Let's not, you know, point fingers. We know it's hard, but we just got to move forward, and that's all we're about. But I want to share this. Lovedesh doesn't also stand for people who make scapegoats of the typical ones, be it the big factories or be it the governments. We also have a special message for trade unions, okay? Because I have trade union credentials, and that's why I hope I'll be a nice but dangerous voice now, because I've spent 10 years observing who does what. To trade unions and any other charities and NGOs, stop using my brothers and sisters in Bangladesh and in other developing emerging economies as your poster girls. You are all aware that you take subscriptions, okay? I want to know, why is it that the foreign trade unions, why did you leave it for someone like me and Amber? We don't have much money. We're a startup, okay? I'm a single mother. Why have we waited for this day? Why is it that when I look at campaigns, I see the pictures of my brown sisters and they're not your poster girls? Because ultimately, to me, and this is going to be unpopular opinion, you're a business as well, okay? So we hold you accountable. I hold you accountable, okay? It's been 7 years as a trade union. Why are you letting someone, I don't have trading experience, why did I have to do a panel like this? Why is it that my survivors, and why is it that it took someone with Bangladeshi heritage and for me to learn my language, the Bangladeshi language, to bring Bangladeshi voices today? You all have money. You all have money, so stop pointing the finger at just rich brands, okay? I hold trade unions, I hold everyone accountable. So that's it. I'm not going to get more angry than that, but please, everyone thinks, oh, trade unions are the ones who are actually really, really fighting. And I'm talking about foreign trade unions. I'm not talking about the likes of Nazma, right? There are very, very rich trade union leaders, and I've read about them. And look at your salaries, yeah? Look at your salaries. But you are taking money in subscriptions, but we're still waiting, because I have half a suspicion you don't want everyone around the table, because actually it does suit your purpose to keep going, because after all, as NGOs and charities and trade union, if we find the solutions, you won't get to exist, will you? because guess what? As Nazma will support me, the workers need jobs. And I do want to thank the RMG sector, because if it wasn't for the RMG sector, I've met them. Many of the women would be exploited. Many of them would turn to prostitution. I have met them. So don't come and say, oh, let's just all go on strike. And in 2013, you'll see there's a video of me. I was the only one who, having watched the Rana Plaza, I cried my eyes out. I had no editing skills. I cried my eyes out. And then there's a video of me just saying, I love Obama. I was the only one saying, Obama, why are you suspending orders? Why is there this rush? Because actually there is a bid to actually still protect the very stakeholders, and it's all of you. So you know what? I now think that people like Dom, people like Andrew, people like Jaya, there's the Common Objective, there's Fashion Revolution, there's all of them. We all sit round the table. And the other thing I was going to say is, you know what, Brick Brands, why haven't you got a charity pot? Why is it that you don't profit share? Why is it that, you know what, you're making probably 100, 200% margin on your profits? Why did you not understand that Bangladesh and many other countries don't have NHS? Why is it when we threaten and say Lovedesh would like to pay the London living wage to any worker wherever they are, we don't know how we're going to do it, but we'll try and find a way. Why is that impossible? Why is it that I'm threatened and saying, oh, Yasmin, you're going to be taking down the whole fashion sector. Oh, many businesses will go bust. Do you know what? I really don't care, because guess who's been going bust for decades, centuries, poorest all around the world. It is not necessary. So pay them the wage, pay them the top up, because Bangladeshis don't have medical funds. They don't have NHS. How dare you pay them and think that maybe by paying them £80 a month or $90 a month is enough? Do you realize how much rent is? 30% is just rent. Do you know that education is not free? I'm really sorry, I'm going off on one, yeah? Right? So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to announce this. We're going to write a letter. That's right. Lovedesh, and whoever wants to sign it, is going to write a letter very nicely inviting all the CEOs of all the top brands like Walmart, like Primark, who I believe are reporting to say that they are standing by their orders, okay? But all of you big, fat, rich brands, yeah? All the top influencers, you've made money, millions, maybe some of you, yeah? With all your merch and everything. That's great, that's lovely. All you charities who have t-shirts, yeah? And you have your little slogans, etc. Nobody should be allowed to make t-shirts or any kind of merch unless you put people at the heart of it. And we're going to be writing letters to some of the biggest influencers, governments, CEOs of fashion brands to say, hey, either you can find solutions or you can work with Lovedesh on our 1136 campaign, because we've got the solution, because the solution we think is slow fashion and circular economy. So on that note, I'm going to really see if there's any other last questions, okay? But I just wanted to give the floor over a little bit to Ohidul, who I'm just going to share the screen. Where's Ohidul? Because it's really important we have his, just bear with me while I bring up Ohidul. And it was really important, sorry. And by the way, there are really good brands out there, so we do want to champion them. And I know we've gone over, but we won't get this chance. We've only got one laptop between the two of us. And we also want to give a shout out to the Circle Network. There's a particular individual, Joe, who's been supporting us behind the scenes non-stop since I announced this idea, as well as many other people who shall remain nameless. But I just wanted to show you this film. And it's really important, and I promise you we will go, but we can't leave this session without letting someone like Ohidul, have a bit of a voice. So if Amber, here we are, there we are. And just to remind you, we have also Lovedesh ambassadors. We have, we're going to play it, if you can just share the screen. No, I just want to this is Summer, and let's go back to Karen, sorry. I need to calm down, I've got a bit emotional. I'm so sorry. And apparently this is not a good look. I've been told that, you know, it gets me into trouble, but you know, it is what it is. So we're going to now leave with this film, because I think the last person to have voice is a survivor from Rana Plaza, but also we wanted to just quickly show you one of our ambassadors, who is Karen Dobray. Okay, we're very proud to be working with Karen Dobray. We choose people for the Lovedesh Ambassador Program. No, there's no money, no, nothing. We look at people's work, and Karen Dobray is actually a co-director writer for Lewis Football Club. And they actually are fighting for gender equality for pay between female and male footballers. But Karen Dobre, as you can see, is wearing the T-shirt, and she was the first person who stepped forward and said, Yasmin, we'll support you, I'll wear the T-shirt. Didn't take a penny for this. And that was back last year. So now we're going to slowly leave you all, but just watch and listen to Ohidul. And if you can mute me, Amber, clip that we did with the survivors of Rana Plaza when I went to Savur last year, and also thanks to the People's Republic of Bangladesh, who sponsored our first fashion show back in November. So there's good people right across, and as well as some of our friends in the trade union sector who are backing us. Thank you. And we'll be bidding you an adieu from me and Amber. Thank you to all our panels. I don't know if you've got any last questions, but if you have, we can still continue this conversation. But let's play out with Ohidul, Kamran, and my brothers and sisters who actually blessed this T-shirt and helped us create it so that they can have a better future. Yeah.
But yeah, this is Savur, and I am very happy to report that I'm so proud. I've met these amazing gentlemen. You know, he's also lost his wife. I'm so sorry. I've met Apnar naam ki? Muhammad Alam. And he actually lost his wife. ওর নাম কি ছিল? Morjina Akhtar. ওর বয়স কত হবে? 26 ছিল. She was 26 and she died in the Rana Plaza collapse. এখন যখন মারা যায় আপনার স্ত্রী, আপনার বাচ্চা ছিল? জি, 2.5 বছরের ছিল। She left behind a 2.5-year-old ছেলে? ছেলে, এক boy, শুধু এক ছেলে। Morjina Akhtar. এত দুঃখ লাগতেছে। I'm so sorry. আপনার নাম কি?
মোহাম্মদ ওহিদুল ইসলাম।
Muhammad Ohidul Islam. So he was working on the 6th floor. 6th floor. আপনি কি কাজ করতেন?
কোয়ালিটি ছিলাম।
Qualities. He was in the quality section. So আপনি checking করতেন? জি। Or he was checking all the garments.
এক ঘন্টা পর বের হয়েছে। ওই সময় মাথা ঠিক ছিল না। মানে কখন যে সময় বের হয়েছে ওই সময় মাথা ঠিক ছিল না। মানে অন্ধকার চোখে মাথা ঘুরেছে, মানে কোন দিক যাবো। এখান থেকে যখন ভেঙে গেল, উদ্ধারক আমি নিজেও বন্ধু উদ্ধার করছি, উদ্ধার কর্মী হিসেবে অনেক লোকজনও ব্যয় করছে। তারপরে এখান থেকে চলে যাওয়ার পরে এখানে কিছু নেপালে আপনার ভূমিকম্প হয়েছিল, ওখানেও উদ্ধার কর্মী হিসেবে গেছিলাম, প্রায় 7-8 দিন ছিলাম, ওখানেও উদ্ধার করছি। অনেক প্রচুর লোক মারা গেছে নেপালে, ওখানেও গেছিলাম।
Oh, I'm so sorry. Look, this gentleman, apnar naam ki? Kamul Hassan Babu. Kamul Hassan Babu, and he's just showing me the picture of his wife. Or boysh koto chilo? 22. She was 20 years old. Apnar bachcha ache? Okay. Ekhon apne ko
বাচ্চা মারা গেছিল। একটা ওয়ান বাচ্চা ছিল আগে।
কার বাচ্চা?
ওয়ান বয়।
কার বাচ্চা? সেখানে মারা গেছে?
না না, সে মারা গেছিল।
এটা ছিল প্রেগন্যান্ট।
ও, পেটে ছিল বাচ্চা যখন মারা যায়। I'm so. Apnar naam ki?
Kamul Hassan Babu.
Huh?
Kamul Hassan Babu.
Kamul Hassan Babu. Oh my God, his wife, his beautiful wife of 22 years, was pregnant and she actually died. Yeah. So it's not about me. This is about it being them voice. 7th floor. She was on the 7th floor. এখন আর কেউ আছে যেন আপনার কি হয়েছে?
আমার মেয়ে আবুল কালাম।
আবুল কালাম। So this is Abu Kalam.
আমার মেয়ে মারা যায় আহত।
আহত অনেক
মানে ব্যথা পাইছে। হ্যাঁ,
আঘাত পেয়েছে।
ওকে, ওর নাম কি?
আশা।
আশা। আশা। আশার বয়স কত?
বয়স ছিল কত?
19 বয়সে।
এখন আপনার
26। এখন আপনার বাসায় আছে? কিছু করতে পারে না? আপনারা কি কিছু পাইছে?
ওই বিকাশে 50,000 টাকা।
বিকাশে 50,000 টাকা দিচ্ছে, আর 3 মাস পর 15,000 টাকা করে।
হ্যাঁ, কিন্তু মেডিকেলে খুব সাহায্য করছে, তাই না?
না, মেডিকেলও আমাদের চিকিৎসা তেমন একটা করেনি।
আচ্ছা, আপনাদের কি প্রয়োজন? আমি চেষ্টা করব, কারণ আমার জন্য শুনেন, 24 তারিখ
কার্ডটা নিয়ে এসে দেখেন।
24 তারিখ আমি চলে যাচ্ছি, ওকে? আমি বিরাট স্বপ্ন নিয়ে আপুর জন্য উনি, এই যদিও আমার জন্ম লন্ডনে, আপনাদের কথা সত্যি 6 বছর আগে আমি বসে খান দিছি আর বলছে এই কি দুনিয়া। আজকে আমি লন্ডন চলে আসছি, আমার বাবা সুযোগ পেয়েছে প্লেন চড়ে লন্ডন আসছে, কিন্তু আমার বাবা যদি এরকম আসতো না তা আমি বোধহয় কে জানে গার্মেন্টসে থাকতে পারবো না।
অবশ্যই
সো এইটা আমি বুঝছি আর বসে বলে ঠিক আছে আমি একটা জিনিস করবো। সো আপুর জন্য বোনের জন্য ইয়াসমিন চৌধুরী হলো আমার নাম। আমি লন্ডন চলে যাচ্ছি 24 তারিখ, যেন 6 বছর হয়ে যাবো, তাই না?
6 বছর।
এইটা আমি আরম্ভ করব। এইটা প্রত্যেক জামা যখন বিক্রি করব আমি একটু পয়সা আলাদা করে রাখবো এই ফান্ড আপনাদের জন্য। So he's just coming and showing me a picture of his beautiful daughter who apparently is now disabled. Her name is Asha. Can you see her ID? She's a sewing assistant. জানো আমি খুব কষ্ট করে আসছি, আমাকে বলা হয়েছে তুমি যাইও না। আমি বলছি না, আমি কেমন ভাবে এইটা জামা বিক্রি করব, আমি যদি সাভারে আসে আপনাদের সাথে যদি পরিচয় করে দিতেন। হ্যাঁ না, আমি হেল্প করব, আমার খুব ইচ্ছা। আপনারা মনে করি আমার ভাই, আপনি আমার ভাই, আপনি আমার ভাই, কিন্তু আমার জন্য দোয়া করবেন, কারণ এখন আমি বিক্রি করি না। প্রত্যেককে লন্ডনে আপনারা এই যে সাক্ষী দেবেন যে আমি আসছি, আপনাদেরকে দেখাইছি, আপনাদের ক্ষমতা বা দোয়া নিতেছি, এর জন্য আসছি যেন আপনারা সুখী আছেন, যেন আমি এটা করতেছি। আমি করবো না আপনাদের যদি আপনারা সুখী নাই, দেখছেন? আর আমি খুব চেষ্টা করি এইটা তৈরি করতেছি যেন এক ফ্যাক্টরি যেন মহিলা খুব সুখে আছে, আর ওরা কাজ করে যে জায়গায় ওরা একটু মালিক আছে, বুঝতেছো? সো এইটা ভালো না। আর আমি সব সময় ওদেরকে বলে দিয়েছি যেন আপনাদের কোনো অসুবিধা হলে আমাকে আমি একটু I'm asking him, if you were to get a bit more funding, what difference impact would it make on your life? আপনি বলে দিলেন।
আমার ছেলেরে আমি পড়ালেখা শিখাইতে চাই।
He's desperate to actually get his child to be educated. এখন আপনার ছেলে পড়ালেখা করতেছে?
জি, ক্লাস 4 পড়ে।
You know, this is it. He's got a tea stand. Yeah? And he was telling me that with the money that he got as compensation, he was able to buy some stock. So he bought some stock, but you know, that's not going to be enough to actually really kickstart his life. So he needs more. And I just hope that if you're watching this video, every sale of this t-shirt will not only help build an artisan workshop in London for boosting the incomes of artisans, but will also donate towards a fund to help people like this gentleman, and obviously the other gentleman who's just disappeared. And আপনার জানো এখন কি কাজ করতেছেন?
আমি এখন বেকার।
Oh, I'm sorry, কেউ কাজ চাকরি পাইতেছে না? He's saying he's unemployed. So যেদিন আপনার কাম শেষ হয়ে গেছে তারপর আপনি কেমন ভাবে বাঁচিয়েছেন, কেমন ভাবে খাইছেন? I asked him when he
কিছু অনুদান দিছিল, ওই যে বিকাশে দিছিল।
হ্যাঁ, বিকাশে পেয়েছেন। কি হয়েছিল আপনার?
শ্বাসকষ্টতে মাথা, তারপরে হাতে যে আঙ্গুল ভেঙে গেছিল।
এখন এইসব কিছু ঠিক হয়েছে?
এখন একটু সুস্থ।
আপনার কি ইচ্ছা, আপনি কি করবেন?
আমার ইচ্ছা তো একটা চাকরি পেলে আমার বউ বাচ্চা নিয়ে আমি
আপনার
দেখতে পারি।
বাচ্চা কজন?
জমক
জমজ, আমিও জমজ। আপনার কি মেয়ে না ছেলে?
দুটোই মেয়ে।
আমি দুইটা মেয়ে। হ্যাঁ, বোন পেয়ে গেছেন। He's smiling because he said he's got twins. আর আপনার বউ কি করে আছে?
হ্যাঁ।
কিন্তু আপনারা খাইতেছেন, এটা কেমন ভাবে বাদ দিতেছেন?
এমনি যখন যেটা কাজ পাই সেটা তখন করি।
ওকে শুনেন, তো আমি বারবার জিজ্ঞাসা করতেছি আপনারা খুশি আছেন এই জামা যে আমি স্বপ্ন নিয়ে কি আইডিয়া করতেছি? কারণ আমি কেন করবো জানো, আমি সব চাকরি ছেড়ে আমি এটা করতেছি, আমার নিজস্ব পয়সা ছাড়ছি, কারণ আমার এত দুঃখ লাগে যেন আমি কিভাবে সাহায্য করতে পারে। আর just talking about how I was feeling a bit anxious coming here all alone, visiting Salva, and obviously it's all men. And, you know, people in Dhaka were saying, my God, it's so long, it's so far away. Are you sure you want to do this? And I said to them, oh, what do you think of what they're saying? And, you know, and আপনি কি বলছিলেন? He was telling me about security.
সবারই আছে, আপনি আমাদের তো বোনের মতন আসছেন, আপনাকে হেল্প করতে পারি, আমরা
ওইরকম সমাধান করব। আপনারা
বাইরে ডাকছে, ঠিক আছে, কিন্তু চাইনি আমি কি ব্যাপার জানি যে সে কি বাঙালি না বিদেশি নাকি কোন দেশি জানতে হবে জিনিসটা, না জেনে কিছু মন্তব্য করা ঠিক হবে।
হ্যাঁ।
And yeah, it's so lovely. They're just saying, look, you're our sister. And I just feel such love and humanity here. And in spite of all their tragedy, they're the ones standing here next to me, just smiling. And it's just incredible courage that they have. And I just really hope that this video helps inform people, because we're not judgmental at Lovedesh. We're just saying Lovedesh has been created to provide an alternative. Yes, it's a luxury brand, but it's a luxury brand because it's about time that a luxury brand is launched and created, specifically designed so that our customers look good, feel good, and deliver good. So I remember 1136, I won't forget, and I with my brothers here, Amar Baira, Inshallah, আপনাদেরকে বলতেছি in Bengali, আমি বলে দিয়ে যাই আপনার দুনিয়ার মানুষকে, এত কষ্ট বাংলাদেশি মানুষে কাজ করিয়া আমাদের জামা তৈরি করে, তাহলে যে জায়গায় 1136 মানুষ মারা গেছে, তাহলে লাভদেশের একটা উদ্দেশ্য, একটা স্বপ্ন যেন ওরা সামনে থেকে আমাদের জামা বা যে জিনিস তৈরি করি বিক্রি করে আমরা যারা অসহায় দেশ ওদেরকে পয়সা দিয়ে সাপোর্ট করবো। এই হলো আমার স্বপ্ন। আমার বাবাই বহু চেষ্টা করছে মরার আগে যেন গরিবকে বহু সাহায্য করে দিয়ে দিয়েছে। তো আমিও হলাম আলহাজ আব্দুল মুকিত চৌধুরী,
সাহায্যটা পাইলে আমরা ছেলের একটু ভালো মতো লেখাপড়া শিখাইতে পারবো।
হ্যাঁ, আর আমি সব সময় আমার বাবাকে বলছে একদিন আমার মরার আগে আমি চেষ্টা করবো। এর জন্য এই দোয়ায় আমি আজকে আসছি। আমি এখন দোয়া করবেন, আমার টিচার্স ডে দিয়েছে। I'm going to say goodbye, and you know what? Thank you for watching from Sava, near Dhaka in Bangladesh.
On mute. Sorry, I'm getting really emotional. I'm just saying thank you. That's the video. That's the webinar. Sign up. I'm a bit emotional. My daughter, I want to say thank you. She's been by my side since the age of 7. We've suffered much hardship, but here's the thing. Let's all get together. Change is a coming, and I want to say keep strong, my Bangladeshi brothers and sisters, and all of you around the world who've been stitching and are the victims in this fast fashion. You've got it much harder than us. But we leave you with this. If you want to help, then share about Lovedesh, share this video, share us, and I'm just going to go. Okay, so we're going to say bye to London and to all of our Bangladeshi panelists, to Salahuddin, to Monir, who's a small factory, because actually, Monir, you and I are going to set up the Small Factory Coalition, okay, international, to Nazma, who's amazing and brilliant, and of course to Masood Rani, and to all the people like Joe and many others, Susmita, James Mobuto, who's in Kenya, a web guy. He's a single dad. He actually volunteered his time to help. To Susmita, who's a mother, thank you so much. We're going to go now. We'll shut up. Thank you so much. Take care. We all wish you well, and Ramzan Mubarak to the whole Muslim world, because the next webinar will be focusing on the modest fashion sector, inshallah. Take care. Bye from London.